So it's still dark, cold, and rainy outside. Damn it. Hey, it's still dark, cold, and rainy outside, so we're not shad fishing yet. If it were a little bit warmer, we're going bass fishing on a rainy, muddy, nasty, overcast day. I'm going to throw a fly similar to this. This is a fly I worked on from an older pattern that probably just looked like this. It's a good articulated bass fly, but on a rainy day, it doesn't throw off a lot of light, sound, or movement. So when it's particularly muddy outside, you got to adapt and update this. And I did a podcast 2 years ago. So this is an updated version of that fly. It's just got more vibrations, more sound, wriggling, wiggling, undulations in the water that a fish that can't particularly see with their eyes can hear with their acoustico-lateralis or their lateral line. It's going to look like this. You probably have most of these ingredients at your house right now. And I'm going to break down what goes into this loud fly. First, you're going to need hooks. We're going to start off with the size 4 fly shack. Then we're going to move to a size 2 fly shack. If this is for a client that can't throw big flies, I will use a size 4 long streamer hook. You are going to need your preferred ultra suede tail in white. And then you can color them up, Fire Tiger, or whatever else you want with Stained by Sharpie. I just happen to be missing most of mine because I have an 8-year-old daughter in the house who thinks the pink one is her favorite and it belongs to her. I'm going to be using black thread just to have a little bit more black accent on this as it is Fire Tiger. Loud rubber legs from Hairline. These are my 2 colors to go with my color motif. I am going to be using 30-pound cheap mono to connect them, no beads in between. And then I'm going to be using cocktails for the shoulders. I like cocktails over schlappen or saddle hackle because they're just bigger. If you've got a nice place that makes dyed rooster tails, please let me know because I'm pretty much out. These are my last chartreuse ones that I have today. And then we're going to finish off with just a little bit of bone dry on the knots. So let's get started. 2 more things. We're going to use this from Orvis. I forget the name. And then we're going to use dumbbell eyes. Put that in the Regal. And I'm going to crank down some 210 black denier towards the middle. I'm going to take my dyed and dried Fire Tiger tail. And I'm going to put it down about there. And I'm going to just set it on that little nub on the Regal. The other material I forgot to mention in this is going to be the body material, Krystal Flash Chenille Chartreuse. I'm going to tie it from a ball in my hand so I'm not cutting the wrong size and wasting it. You've heard about that on podcasts before. Wrap that up to about here. I want to leave a nice gap where I'm going to tie in rubber legs and a collar of rooster tail right there. I'm just going to wrap over, trim that down, set it aside. So now I'm just going to clean up this area. First is going to go in the rubber legs. And all I'm doing is taking one of each color. I'm going to double that over and tie it down going the side facing you, then the side facing me. And what this does is just help give it a little bit more flutter action. It may get in the way of the fluttering tail. I'm okay with that. Now the final step on this is just adding a piece of chartreuse rooster tail. I'm going to add it in from the tip. I want to go like this as it moves forward, going this way. Make sure all those rubber legs are out of your way. Lock that down, trim off any excess. Now I'm just going to take this rooster tail, 4 or 5. Can't really go too bulky on it. It's going to absorb water and sink. You can't make it too noisy. It's 2 wraps. Make sure each wrap is in front of the previous one and you're not crushing any fibers. Just do we'll end it, we'll do one more. All right, we're going to end it here. So I'm now going to tie down that piece of rooster tail. My first fly shop that I worked in had loads and loads of dyed rooster tail. And these are still the ones from there. All right, we're going to just throw a half hitch or two onto that. We're almost done. That alone will catch a fish. And if it's too close to the eye, you can always slide it back a little bit. And there you have a nice butt end of a two-person horse costume. We're just going to hit it with a little bit, top, bottom, and side. And of course, the trick is if you have any gunk on the eye when you're doing this, you just take a piece of a feather and run it through the eye like this. And it goes through and comes out clean. All right, that cleaned up the eye. The reason my lamp is so bright is because it's battery charged by solar rays. So here we go. This is the back end of it. Doesn't look like much, but now we're going to add in the second piece, and we're nearly done. Size 2, pick my scissors back up. We start the thread here up front so I can show that I am using black in that motif of circus peanutty, articulated fire tiger goodness. So I've got an original circus peanut from Russ Madden here. So my fly is sort of weakly based on that, but just built a lot bigger. Got a nice little base here. I'm going to put down my dumbbell eyes. Crisscross a couple times. No need to glue them. These are going to be completely covered up. Now I'm going to take the 30-pound monofilament. Only need a couple inches. Same thing I use for shrimp eyes, or I make Solares eyes. Just put a dollop of flex on the end and hit it. So I'm going to laterally tie this down the side facing you first. Right to the hook bend. Not using any beads. Going to thread this through. I cleaned it out with the last feather. So that is now threaded through. You could also use beadalon, firewire, senyo wire. So you can get a little bit of a loop here for that to wobble on. And now I'm going to wrap all the way back up, cut the mono, and wrap down. Now, I'm not a big fan of having two hooked flies. So this one, if you're worried, just cut the bend of that hook off. You don't have to worry about hooking a fish just on this and it pulling through and you losing it or getting a fly stuck in your hand. Next up, we're going to take some of that Krystal Flash chenille, tie it down behind the eyes. Again, I'm tying from the ball in my hand because it's more convenient, more economical. I'm not going to use too little or too much. I'm going to wrap all the way up and around that head like a shad puff. Everything from here on out now is going to be tied in that spot right behind the dumbbell eye. So first we're going to take 4 strands, actually that's 5 because this is going to be loud, and we're going to tie that in about 3/4 of the way up right there. So you got a long piece and a short piece. I'm going to do the same on my side. If you're stripping this fly and you're over deep water and let it stop, it's going to just take a nosedive. It's going to flutter, but that tail's also going to spin and those rubber legs are going to vibrate, making this a loud fly. Next up, just these 2 pieces are left. We're going to tie in, reverse this time, the orange. And then over that, we're going to tie in the chartreuse rooster tail. Let's do a couple of wraps of this. Now it just looks like someone in a lion costume. Trim off that extra. Now we're going to take the chartreuse, clean it up, let's find the soft spot on the stem, trim that, open up a nice piece, tie again right behind the eye, nice tight wraps. We don't want this thing falling apart after hitting too many docks. And just a couple of wraps. It's big, it's beefy, it pushes water. And this is what my friend Arwell used to catch a nice largemouth after about a 2-inch rainstorm at 4 Mile Run a couple years ago. Trim off any extra pieces like that. Just gonna do a couple wraps behind the dumbbell eye, and then we're gonna Solarez it. Oh, I forgot one step. We're gonna add a little bit extra flash over like this. So I'm gonna take some of this. It's a blend of mylar and then just fuzz. So it's got some nice body and it's got good flash to it. Pull out a piece. And I'm just going to wrap this behind the dumbbell eye, fold it over and under the dumbbell eye. Now it's just got a little bit, slight bit of more bling to it, a little bit of colorful garnish. And there you have it. That's a pretty straightforward, articulated fly that you can tie for just anytime you're fishing dirty, muddy water. Let's hit it with some Solarez. Bone dry. You put a little bit extra on there because this thing is going to be bouncing off rocks. Who knows what else. Close up my bone dry. How's George doing back there? Can't see my crayfish George, but you can see that dumb fish. Now you can see Mr. Guppy along with Spotty. George is about the size of this. We need to discuss crayfish, by the way. That thing is this long and does not have any claws. There you have it. There is an articulated, minimally ingredient required fly that's going to be super loud and catches fish. I think next up, we'll do a gutless frog live because we now know that they catch snakeheads. Next up, Tuesday, gutless frog fly tying tutorial. Till then, I'm going to go check on my bread dough, making those baguettes.